Welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast with your hosts Bill Algie, Dennis Talbot, and Alan Tate. We are three guys who have one thing in common, a love of rock and roll. Our goal is to talk about all things rock. We hope you find this show intriguing, funny, and occasionally highly opinionated. Enjoy!
All right. Hey, welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast. This is episode number 98, and we have had a little technical difficulty tonight. So,
Bill has had technical difficulty.
It's been me. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, so hopefully this works, and if it doesn't work, it's probably Dennis's fault.
Okay, I'll tell you. It doesn't matter.
So it's going to look like I'm looking at my iPhone the entire time because my notes are on my regular computer that are jacked up now. So I don't know what the hell's going on. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the Gene Simmons fiasco getting thrown off Fox, and then kind of, I think, our general feelings about all this crap that's going on with people coming out of the woodwork 20 years later to whatever, put people in a bad spot. And then we're going to do a new feature today. It's going to be called, we're going to call it like a Day in Music, or I don't know. We haven't decided yet, a Day in Rock or something. But found a cool app.
This Day in Music History.
This Day in Music History. That sounds like a great idea.
But one of those things ends up being a topic, though, right?
Yeah, and one of the things today will be a topic for sure. So we're gonna there's a great app out there that kind of puts everything together that happened on a specific day in music history, and we're gonna use that as a reference. But we'll see what happens here. Sound good?
Yep.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, so back on the 17th, a couple weeks ago, Gene got banned for life from Fox News, which, it's kind of amazing because Fox News and Gene have had a little love affair going on for a number of years, right? And now that seems to have waned, and in light of the Harvey Weinstein incident, all the other things coming out of the woodwork now that everybody and his brother needs to make sure they get their name in the paper or something like that about something that happened however many years ago. But I guess he was on there to promote the book, the new book. Is it Gene Simmons called The Power or something like that? Mm-hmm. And he apparently made a couple comments to some people and exposed his chest and his belly. I can't imagine what that would look like. That would make enough people to want to vomit. I don't know about somebody feeling harassed by that. And then, bopped some people on the head with his book, just kind of horsing around. And now it's turned into a three-ring circus because, everything's got to be so freaking politically correct. It's just horrible. So anyway, what do you guys think about that? What's going on? What are your thoughts?
You mean for Gene specifically, or just the whole thing in general?
Both. I think both. I think just, where you at? Because I'm every day, today. So today when we're filming this, it's Matt Lauer was, fired today from, is NBC, right? That's where he was at.
Yeah. And Garrison Keillor, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He got fired from NPR. Same thing.
And Charlie, but then, what was the other?
Well, Charlie Rose is a whole nother.
But supposedly Matt Lauer, now there's actually a history. I guess there was an expose coming out. There was 3 different magazines or companies that were digging into him.
Yeah, and Star, Esquire, TMZ.
No, it was Huffington, New York Times, and something else. There was 3 major networks, and they've been talking about this, and they're leaking out some stuff. And I guess NBC caught wind of it. That's why they fired him overnight, just to kind of put the fire out early.
It's not going to put the fire out.
Supposedly, though, not only did this one thing happen during the Olympics, but he's got a torrid trail, and I guess he's been known to be a womanizer, so who's knows? Maybe he's another, and people are using their notoriety and their.
People are using other people's notoriety to get notoriety.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what these guys have done over the years, obviously, that's wrong. Using your position or whatever to get sex or get yourself ahead or whatever, yeah, that's wrong. That should have been taken care of when it happened. What I don't understand is why 20, 30, 40 years later, this stuff is suddenly starting to become such a big thing. You know,
Right.
we're witnessing a revolution here. I don't know what kind of revolution it is. I don't know that I want to see what the end game is, but
Right.
you're witnessing history here.
Well, and the thing is, and we were talking about, and you asked about this question, Bill, and Gene acted no different than he's acted in the last 1,200 or interviews that he's done on television.
Yeah,
Gene
I
does the
agree.
same shtick every time. It wasn't nothing new. Gene's always comes off as an arrogant, sexist
Right.
asshole. He's been like that forever. Yeah, and that's Gene Simmons. He's the first one to tell you, you know, any publicity is good. Bad or good, publicity is publicity. He has a book coming out. Boy, his name got, he's been banned from Fox. Do you think he really gives a shit? I honestly don't think he does. I think he's like going, you know what? I just sold an extra 200 books, and my vault's not selling like it should. So I need to do something. They just give you a free phone call.
I just it just now popped into my head, but do you think Ted Nugent might be quaking in his boots a little bit, considering that he adopted a 13-year-old back in the 70s and ended up marrying her?
But the thing is, she's not going to come and say anything.
I don't know.
No, but think. Okay, so that's a good question. So think about what is. Think about the '60s.
Okay, now hold on a second.
In music,
I said a 13-year-old. I should have said a teenager because I don't know how old she was.
Okay, teenager.
Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones did the same thing.
Yeah.
He adopted a girl so he could, and as soon as she was of age, then they got married. But he was doing it beforehand.
Well, but
known.
So when do people start turning on every single music person in the country?
Oh, it's going to happen.
Every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
You ask any rock star why they got into music.
Right.
Why are they playing live in a band? Why
But is a groupie going to come and say, well, you know what? I was backstage half naked and this guy,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The guys at Def Leppard are never coming back to America.
Well, there's sorry. Who did I hear the other day? They were talking about so I was watching this thing about wrestling. Ric Flair had a thing on ESPN on 30 and 30. And on that thing, he was talking about that, he thinks over his lifetime he's been with around 8,000 women.
Oh,
because oh, yeah. So every one of those women? And at what point was it consensual and wasn't it? And, it's maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't really know, but this is ridiculous. And it's, I think, to be honest with you, my opinion is it's a distraction from something else that's going on.
Right.
But it's also
fabricated
different.
Distraction.
It's also different if you're a rock star or a sports figure and these girls are throwing, they're throwing pussy at you.
Not
and but the whole point is, now if you're in the industry and you're taking people who are trying to get into the industry and you say, look, the only way you're going to make it up the ladder is if you do this for me or do this to me. That's a different story than a groupie is coming up and do. That's where I think, so if you're a groupie or a sports figure and these girls are just coming out and it's basically consensual, you're not going to have that problem. If you're using your fame and fortune to affect somebody,
position of power,
and somebody's trying to climb that ladder and you use, instead of using their merits of what they can do in the job, other than what they can do in the bedroom, that's different.
You left the door open there.
And the thing is, it's just going to come back on all these guys. It started with, look at Letterman here a few years ago. He got caught doing the same shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's first to turn them in, but there again, these guys are playing the game, and it could be somebody who's just out there to get the name for themselves, also. So you play with fire, sometimes you get burnt. So
yeah, and I don't mean to. I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not trying to minimize the situation or any of that
these
kind of
guys
stuff.
Are sleaze bags.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. But why now and why 20 years later and 25 years later and 30 years later? I don't. That to me, I don't understand. Suddenly it's okay. It's okay because of what? Why is
Gene
it
to get banned from
suddenly
Fox from doing the same shtick he's been doing
Yeah.
every day for
I
his
don't know.
lifetime. I don't understand that,
Yeah, me neither.
Anyway.
All right, we're gonna wrap that up. Beating that dead horse.
Alan, you got anything else to say about that?
Nope.
Are you done with that? All right.
All right, so we're gonna do our
Wait,
little.
Can I
yeah.
bring up something real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
I read this yesterday, and I thought this is kind of interesting. They did this here a couple years ago, but Dokken is getting back together without Don again, putting
So
together.
it's called Aachen.
No, it's actually called Super Stroke. Isn't that a great name? But they got the guy Robert Mason from Warrant, who's their current singer, and Jeff, George, and Mick, and they're getting ready to put out another album. And they did this here a couple years ago.
Yeah, they did.
Pilsen singing most of it. Then they had some. They actually
They had
re-recorded
some Dokken covers. Yeah.
with some special guests. But this is supposed to be a whole new album with new tunes with this guy from Warrant. So
Yeah, something about that just totally blows my mind is that Mick Brown keeps going back and doing stuff with George Lynch and Jeff Pilsen, but he still plays with Don Dokken. You would think that as much bad blood as there is, at least between Lynch and Dokken, that Don would say, "You either you're
you do
either
that
my
again.
drummer or you're their drummer."
The problem is they all need each other. They all need each other. I mean, Jeff Pilsen doesn't. Jeff's fine. I'm surprised he's got time to do this. But and George does some work with Michael Sweet and his little Lynch Sweet project. But Mick Brown and Don Dokken have nothing going on. So basically, they depend on each other. So whenever and the thing is, they're not going to get Don back because Don's voice is shot. I mean, there's no reason to bring him back. So get this new guy.
The thing with Don, though, is he could replace the drummer just as easily as he replaced the bass player and the guitar player.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting. I'm curious to see what kind of music they're going to make. And, I always like to hear Jeff, anything he does. So
Should be. It'll probably be pretty good, I would imagine.
Oh, it'll rock. And there was a new song released, and I haven't listened to it yet. Is it called Firestarter or the new Priest?
I don't know.
Firepower. Yeah, they just released the lead song from the album. That album's coming out here soon. I can't wait to hear that too. New Priest album. So I hope it's good.
Cool.
Yeah, that new guitar player. That guy is just.
Maybe they'll come to Evansville and we can all meet up and start a podcast.
Hey, that would be awesome.
Wow. We should do that.
We'd be the only people there. That's what it was last time.
Yeah, no kidding.
What a shame.
No kidding.
I don't think they'll be back.
Not well. They might play the Victory, but they're not, or whatever it is called. But they're not going to play the.
Play the center. The center would be a great.
The center. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a day in music history. We need some intro music for that.
Dun, dun, dun.
There it is.
There you go. All right, so we're going to run down a few things that are notable in music history from November 30th. So November 30th is when this episode will come out. And then at the end, we will have a main topic. So we've kind of picked one of the things. So we can chat about a couple of these things, and I'll kind of read some of these things off here. But so November 30th, 1982, a little album you guys might have heard of came out by Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, what was that? Yeah.
Called Thriller.
It's in my collection.
It's in my collection.
I actually do not own that album. I do not own that. I need to buy that, I guess.
It's best-selling album of all time, and
no, that's not right.
You sure?
Eagles' greatest hits is the greatest.
Oh, it is now.
I looked it up today.
It's surpassed. Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
Thriller is number 2. I looked it up.
Well, there you go.
I that at work. So
there you go.
Facts.
We have a correction. And Dennis has facts. Are you guys writing this down?
What's your fax number?
555
876. All right. So another thing, and this is kind of cool. Did you know that in 1977, Bing Crosby's last Christmas special aired?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that significant?
David Bowie.
Yes. It is the one with David Bowie.
Kelly loves that. And I do too, but Kelly, she we watch that multiple times through the season because it's so good. It's kind of a neat young meets old kind of thing. It's kind of neat.
Yep.
It's very well done. Yeah,
something that we've talked about on the show a few times too is in 2012, Glenn Campbell played his last show.
Wow.
And if we've talked about it. It's if you've seen the video or watched the movie. What's the movie called, Dennis?
The movie is called
I'll Be Me.
I'll Be Me. Yes.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, get you some Kleenex, sit down and watch it.
Check it out.
Oh, it is. It's a very well done documentary, and just not only for the Glenn Campbell music itself, but a family dealing with Alzheimer's, and just the way they did it was very the way they let him play to the point where they said, that last show was pretty rough. I mean, that was about as rough as they wanted it to get, and but it still played well. I mean, it was wow.
Amazing.
Thinking about it.
You get a little tear. You all right? Yeah.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
So those are some of the topics. Did you guys pick anything else out on the day of music history?
November 30th, 1959. Sherry Curry of the Runaways was born.
Well, she's the lead singer, right?
Correct.
Yep.
It is also Dick Clark's birthday.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's important.
Very important.
Think about that. So where would
where would rock and roll be?
I don't know.
It would be a different kind of music had someone else besides Dick Clark put it in the forefront.
Yeah, it would. I mean,
maybe
it's kind of interesting. It's one of those things that, to me, I honestly think there should be a Dick Clark Day.
Bandstand
New Year's Eve.
Right.
Yeah, well, yes, that's true. But I mean, yeah, that's true. Actually,
Bandstand
is it
to
still
us,
Dick Clark's New Year's Eve? It might still. I think it is.
It is, but it's hosted by Ryan Seacrest.
Well, obviously,
but it's still called Dick Clark's New Year's Eve.
Dick Clark Productions, does his production company. The thing is too, though, if you really think about it, American Bandstand, what we remember it being and when we watched it's a lot different than my mom watched it a lot. I mean, I guess it was on more than once a week. I think back in the day, wasn't it? Or was it?
I only saw it on Saturdays.
But I'm saying my mom will tell stories about they were dancing. They knew all the dancers, and it was. I mean, it was more of a personal thing back then. I don't think it was as when we watched it, it was more of just a bunch of people. But they were actually they had the same dancers every week and same people, and they had kind of it was almost like a reality type show kind of situation. And my mom used to watch it a lot. 1996, Tiny Tim died on stage. He's one of the people who actually died during his performance. Had a heart attack, and
wow.
My grandmother met him one time when they went to Vegas. Said he was a really big, tall, goofy-looking dude, but said he was an extremely nice guy.
That was you that she met, Dennis.
No, he actually was a really big guy. If you remember any of his old Carson, he actually got married on the Carson show. But
yeah, he did.
He was a strange dude. I mean, really strange.
Yeah, kind of a weirdie.
But anyway,
again,
he died
a little bit weird.
You're talking about yourself, Dennis.
Exactly.
Wow, we're a little harsh tonight. All right, so our main topic.
That's all I can say.
Big thing that happened on November 30th is the release of Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Yes.
So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about The Wall. Dennis has a little bit of story behind it, but just to kind of give you guys an idea, it came out in 1979. There were it's between 11 and a half and 13 million copies. It's kind of I have read 3 or 4 different versions of how many it's sold now. So I don't know.
It depends on if you count the albums or if you count the package, because it is a double album. That's where it gets confusing. It's like 20 something million.
It's 23 if you count the albums. If you count the package, it's 11 or 13 or something. I don't know. It seems to be changing.
Right.
But So one of our favorite producers produced the album, which is Bob Ezrin. So for those of you that are Kiss fans, you'll know that Bob Ezrin is the same guy that produced Destroyer. And
So what you're saying is this is Pink Floyd's The Elder.
Or Destroyer.
That's a
You're welcome to your nightmare, whichever you think.
No. Actually, I would equate this to not quite The Elder, because it actually has a couple songs on it that I like.
This is a masterpiece. This is not. I mean, I do like The Elder, but this is there. It's.
But we have to say that Bob Ezrin did, produce one of my favorite Kiss albums, which is Revenge. So I was pretty happy about that.
Too. I need to check on this. Did Jeff Lynne do engineering on this album? I know he did Dark Side of the Moon or one of those, but Jeff Lynne from ELO, I think, did some engineering on this album. If it's not this one,
I don't know.
I don't want to say.
Produced by Bob Ezrin, Dave Gilmour, James Guthrie, and Roger Waters.
All right, so it must be the other. He did some it must be Dark Side of the Moon then. But I know he did something with them. I wasn't for sure. Just throwing it out there.
So this album is it's 2 albums set, right? It's
right.
I was gonna say it's 2.5 Van Halen albums.
80 minutes.
It's 80 minutes. So we score everything in Van Halen album length of 30 minutes or 32 or whatever. Anyway, it produced 3 or 4 singles, depends on how you count. Another Brick in the Wall, something you might have heard of, so let's talk about that for a minute. So do you guys remember the first time you heard or saw the video?
No, well, it had to be when I moved to Evansville, so it would have been past 83 because I didn't have MTV when we lived out in the country. So, and they didn't really show that. Like I said, my first recollection of The Wall was seeing the movie. My friend,
so you saw the movie first, right?
Yes, I mean I knew of the album, but I was not a Pink Floyd fan. My best friend, who I grew up with, who we were Kiss buddy. I mean, we were all in the Kiss, and then later on.
Wait! I gotta clarify something.
The band Kiss.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with it.
But toward junior high, he started. I mean, he was also a big Rush fan, but then he started in high school, starting to get into Pink Floyd, and I was not a Floyd. I didn't really get it at that time. So when The Wall came out, we went to Tell City. It was our senior year. It was 92. Or I'm sorry, not 92, 82. When that came out, we went to see The Wall with Matt. It was me and Matt. I think it was Jerry Wagner. It was about 3 of us who went. And I sat through it, and I was like, man, I just don't quite get it. I just don't. And I don't know. Just didn't really. It didn't catch. And then when I moved to Evansville, Rodney had this on an album, and we would sit around and listen to it, in college. And at that point, it started making a little bit more sense.
We'll just go with that. Keep going.
So we're going to leave it at that. But no, and then once you start listening to it and you really start getting into it, and then I started appreciating it more. And then I watched the movie again, and then I got it. So The Wall has become one of my favorite albums, and it's one of those ones you just can't just say, okay, I'm going to listen to one song. It's one of those albums you got to take the time to sit down and you got to listen to it from front to back. I mean, it's a story. It's a progression.
To a point, it's a progression. But there are enough songs on there. You've got Run Like Hell, Comfortably Numb, Brick in the Wall, Empty Spaces / Young Lust. There are enough of those songs on there that you could pick those songs out and just listen to them, and it doesn't affect the story.
Personally, I like just to listen to it from back. I think you get more out of it.
I will be honest. There are more songs on this album that I know than I realized that I knew. But up until yesterday, I had never actually listened to this album from beginning to end.
Right.
I listened to it yesterday just because I knew we were going to be talking about it today. And I have never seen the movie, but after listening to the album from beginning to end, I'm going to go back. I've got my dad's copy of the movie The Wall. So at some point in the near future, I am going to watch the movie just, oh, now I see where this song fits in. I see where this song fits in, and I see, the
Right.
story makes a little more sense now.
And the interesting thing that I think why I didn't enjoy the movie as much the first time that I seen it is, the songs that are in the movie. There's a lot. I mean, the movie's is acting and people, but there's some where they have the not animation type stuff. The that kind of real
Yeah.
big, like that. Those songs like that, a lot of those songs are done originally off the album. Now there's 5 or 6 songs, or I can't remember exactly how many there are, that actually Bob Geldof re-recorded the vocals. So it's not, the actual, people in Pink Floyd, whoever sang it at the time, it was either Gilmore or
Waters.
Waters. It has actually, I don't care much for Bob Geldof's voice, so it's kind of odd. But when you go back and you watch it now, it actually it works because he's not a bad singer. It just doesn't fit. I don't think it's as good as what the Pink Floyd was. So that's one thing that you'll see on there, and when you do watch the movie. But the movie's good, and they do. I think there is a song off the movie that's not on the album that was written for the movie, and I don't think the whole album is on the movie. You know what I'm saying? It is kind of, it's not exactly verbatim, but it's enough on there. But the story's really good, and there's some of that shit on there that's just, some of those songs, it gets you right here, if you really like it, listen to it. So
I tried to listen to it. So I drove back from Chicago today. I've been in Chicago for 3 days. So
right.
I had plenty of time. I had, 3.5 hours, and I listened to about maybe half an hour of it, and was like, I can't do this and drive. I'm going to run into a car. I'm just going to turn into a tree. It's like, and only because it's just you're right.
It's a dark album. It's a dark album.
You got to sit down and kind of put some headphones on and just chill out. And it's not one of those things that while you're driving, you just put it on and you're trying to think about what's going on in that and what's going on the road and everything else. And
you start hearing those helicopters and stuff, and you're like,
you
think it's like the cops are after me.
Suddenly you're like, holy shit, this is not working. So yeah, I had to stop listening to it. But I have heard it before, and I think, if I remember, I think Dennis and I watched the movie or listened to the album once or twice back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah. We'll leave it at that.
It's true.
But yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's a masterpiece. I mean, I think it's well done. It's my probably
bastard. What?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
I mean, of all that, I mean, Pink Floyd, I don't like all their stuff. I don't like any of their new stuff. I don't really, to me, Pink Floyd is basically The Wall, Dark Side of the Moon, and Wish You Were Here. And probably my order of favorites is probably Wish You Were Here, The Wall, and then Dark Side of the Moon. But yeah, it's a great album. Like I said, I actually, that's one of those ones I keep threatening to buy on that new vinyl, the big thick record, but god damn, they want $58
Yeah,
it's like, man, it's just, to pull that trigger is hard to do, dude. I just can't.
You need to look for that on Amazon on Black Friday or sometime this week or something. They'll run it on sale.
And if bringing up the old dirty word here, but Spotify is pretty interesting because the copy that they got on here, they have like an anniversary. It's like its 25th anniversary of it or whatever it was at the time. But there's a lot of outtakes. There's like maybe 18. There's like 10 versions of different songs. I mean, there's the list. I mean, it's huge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But you want to go through and listen to a bunch of alternate takes and different versions or early demo versions of it. Everybody's shaking their head. I liked it. I'd listen to it.
No, thank you.
There is a plethora of The Wall on Spotify if you do get a chance to listen to it that way.
I'm kind of that way with a lot of outtakes and demos, though. I mean, as big a Kiss fan as I am, and the collection of demos and outtakes that I have, most of them I haven't even listened to all the way through. They're demos for a reason.
Yeah, that's typically how it works, right? They pick what they think are the best things, and typically
if it's hot in the shade, it's just the album.
Well, but the follow up to this album, right? The follow up to this album was a demo album, were the songs that didn't make the album. I was reading about that earlier. I'm trying to figure out exactly what that was called, but I remember reading that was what the next album called The Final Cut
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was made of outtakes and unused demos from the wall.
Huh.
So
I wonder if it's different than. I'll have to look that up because I'm curious if it is.
Get on the Spotify.
That's what I'm doing right now.
get on the Spotify, get on the Google.
Yeah, I listened to this album on Spotify.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the final cut's
not one
13
that's in my
songs.
collection.
But see, the one that they have here on, Spotify has, what the hell is that? That's not the right one, though. It was 26 songs. That's not right.
Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's not get sidetracked here.
No, we're not.
There,
I mean, we're on the wall.
There again.
And there again.
And there again. We'll just look at that later. All right. So that is your day in music history.
Woo! Dun, 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 dun.
Wow, man.
I got to get some music. I got to make some music for that.
You'll have to do something.
I was going to have my guitar hooked up.
Just get you one of them little xylophone things. Ding, ding, ding.
I'll think of something.
I'll get a cowbell. I got a cowbell. I should play the cowbell.
I can do it on my piano back here. I can get some kind of sound and make doom, 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 doom. I'll figure out something. Need like a ticking noise too, like a tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, time clock.
Clock. There you go.
Or an hourglass. There you go. All right, so there you go. Anybody got anything else?
Nope.
I don't know. Anybody going to see any concerts? I'm leaving for North Carolina tomorrow. Actually.
Oh yeah, you're going to Asheville, right?
Asheville to Biltmore.
Well, I've already talked about getting the Jeff Lynn's ELO tickets, haven't I? We talked about that last episode.
Yeah. Talked about that last
It was coming to the Victory. Somebody told. Oh wow.
I've got. Speaking of coming
Free
to
Dog
the Victory, yeah. It should be One Dog Night because one of the guys is no longer in the band, and the other one passed away last year.
I was gonna say the singer's the only original guy, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's why Mike asked me today, and I said, I think it's One Dog Night. I just said the same thing.
Yeah, Tuesday, February 6th at the Victory Theater. I am going to see the band In This Moment with special guests P.O.D., New Year's Day, and D.E.D. I guess that's just
When is that? When is that?
February the 6th. It's a Tuesday. They're playing here at the Victory.
They're coming. I think they're coming to Indy too. I have to look and see what that date is.
I've seen POD. They opened for.
Yeah. I've seen them.
No, but who do we see? We saw them at the Ford Center with was that with Anthrax and
I don't know. I've seen them. I've seen them 3 times.
Yeah, they were pretty good. I like that.
They're really good.
Because remember you told me, you said, you know that they're religious, don't you? And I'm like,
that's a Christian rock band.
It's like, yeah, I know
what
that.
The hell? Blasphemy.
I caught fire. I was listening to them.
Yeah, I got a show. So next week, I got shows next week. We'll do a review on the 7th. Okay. So I have a show on the 7th. So Night Ranger.
There you go.
Oh, and you lucky dog. And I want to see that so bad.
Should be good.
I know it should be
all
really
right.
good.
All right, Alan, you want to take us out here and make sure we cover everything?
Yep. Visit us on agesofrock.com. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Stitcher Radio, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Till next week. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Ages of Rock podcast. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and most importantly, tell all your friends. Remember, you're never too old to rock. Until the next episode, peace out, folks.